One of my favorite experts on the subject of neuroplastic symptoms, Dr. Howard Schubiner, has a wonderful series of videos about pain and how it relates to your brain. Please take note that the words pain and symptoms can be used interchangeably in discussions about mind-body conditions. Here is episode 2.
We have come a long way in understanding what pain is and where it comes from. We used to think that all pain came from a physical injury in the body, but that's not true. It's a bit more complicated than that. Here's a story that we know you'll find interesting. A construction worker in England stepped on a nail, which pierced all the way through his boot, sticking out the other side. Screaming in agony and staring in disbelief at the nail sticking through his boot, they rushed him to the hospital, where he was given strong pain-killing medicines. When they removed the boot, they were astonished to find that there was no injury at all. The nail went through his boot all right, but it miraculously went right between his toes. There wasn't a scratch on his foot. When he was looking at the nail sticking through his boot, he was in severe pain. His pain was real, just like all pain is real. But in this case, he'd been tricked into thinking he had gotten a really bad injury. Why did this construction worker have so much pain? The reason is that our brains have a quirk in them. Research shows that when we think we are injured, we can experience a tremendous amount of pain, even if there is no physical injury. A group of neuroscientists recently did a fascinating experiment. They put people who had just been through a difficult breakup into a functional MRI machine that can tell which parts of the brain are active. They showed these people a picture of someone with whom they had just had a difficult breakup or divorce. They mapped the parts of the brain that were activated by the picture. Then they applied a really unpleasant stimulus to the arm or the leg, like something really hot or sharp, and the exact same parts of the brain lit up. It's no wonder then that people say a breakup hurts. This study teaches us that when we get an emotional injury, such as when we are rejected or intimidated or disappointed, the same parts of the brain that cause pain are activated as when we break a bone or cut ourselves. Our brain's danger signals can be turned on when we are in emotional danger, just as our pain can be turned on when we are in physical danger. That is how we are programmed. The part of the brain that controls the majority of our pain experience is our subconscious brain. This part of the brain does its own thing. We don't control it, and it is not our fault when it makes mistakes. It's just our brain. Clever brain or pesky, troublesome brain? It depends how you look at it. A relative might be a pain in the neck, and our brain may create neck pain to alert us or protect us from them. An injustice might make us sick to our stomach, and we may get stomach pain. Going to school can feel dangerous for a shy child, and they might get headaches. In each of these examples, these people are experiencing real pain, but not from a physical injury. We call this neural circuit pain. These experiences of physical pain in response to emotional danger are common. They happen to just about everyone at some times. It is part of being human, having a brain and a body. When our subconscious brain feels we need protection of some kind, it will create a message. Our subconscious brain can't speak to us directly, so it uses the language of pain to alert us that we need to do something different. Our brain is trying to help us. Good brain. But it's up to us to interpret and understand the brain's message. If our brain is trying to tell us that our work situation is dangerous and it produces back pain, our job is to figure that out and act to deal with the situation. If we don't understand the message, we may get confused and think that we have actually injured our back. We may start getting unnecessary medical treatment, like injections and surgery, which makes us worry more and more about our back. If this continues for more than a few months, this turns into chronic pain. It is very important for us to understand all the ways that our brain and body can experience pain. It requires an understanding of how the brain works, and an understanding that a painful message can be received even when there is no physical injury. Before you go and diagnose yourself with neural circuit pain, it's really wise to get a complete medical evaluation. You need to see someone who understands the modern science of pain and understands where it comes from. With a thorough history and physical exam, the right doctor should be able to help you understand whether or not neural circuit pain is a condition that you should be treated for.
This seems like a good place to talk about the placebo effect. I'm sure you've heard of it, especially in the cases of people participating in studies conducted by pharmaceutical companies. A group of subjects unknowingly take a sugar pill instead of the new medication so that responses to the medication can be measured against the responses of those not taking the medication. It is remarkable how often the people taking the placebos experience relief from their symptoms, which is obviously based on their expectations of finding relief. Expectations and beliefs, powerful things coming from your brain, influencing what is happening in your body. But did you know this has even happened with placebo surgeries? Willing subjects of a study done with knee surgery showed that those who had the surgery fared no better in their results and pain reduction than those who only had their knees cut open and sewn back up again. And just like the man with the nail through his boot, but not his foot, there is something called the nocebo effect. Another example of this is someone getting a mistaken diagnosis of cancer and thinking themselves into being sick and actually dying simply because they believed that mistake. I'm not making this stuff up, folks. Since the limbic system or limbic brain acts as a control center for conscious and unconscious functions, and it is apparently not 100% reliable, as we just learned. Can you think of some examples of how thoughts, emotions, and information from our five senses can create very physical changes to the body? For example, do humans ever experience things like blushing from embarrassment, a racing heart or insomnia on Christmas Eve or the day before a trip to Disneyland or a wedding or some other important event, feeling nauseous or lethargic due to divorce or death, crying or laughing because of a movie or a book, jumping or gasping when startled or scared to the point that it takes a long time for the heart to slow back down, a physical sexual response from just thoughts, goosebumps at a song or a story or connection, butterflies when remembering or anticipating a romantic moment, nausea, trembling, or sweaty palms before public speaking, suddenly remembering a person, place, or event with a strong emotional connection simply because you smelled a particular smell or heard a particular song, re-experiencing trauma because of being triggered by an image or a sound, to the point of reliving all the original physical, mental, and emotional responses to that trauma. That's PTSD in a nutshell. None of those examples had actual physical causes. All physical sensations, including pain, are created by the brain. Regardless of the source, it is all real. It's how we were wired. So don't let the phrase, "it's all in your head," throw you, because it kind of is, but not in the way that those words imply that you made it up. Neuroscience proves that the brain plays the starring role in everything you experience, and sometimes it really overdoes its job. Of course, pain happens as a result of an injury, but even with that injury, it is your brain sending you the pain signals. So you take care to not make that injury worse because you didn't notice what was happening. I have an example from my childhood. I didn't feel it when the broken glass flew up and sliced my arm open right down to the muscle. But once I saw the blood dripping off my fingertips, then the pain started. Speaking of, even your vision is over 90% in your brain, not your eyes. Otherwise, how do you see so vividly when you dream at night with your eyes closed? The messages and sensations you get from your brain are largely based on past experiences, perceptions, expectations, beliefs, etc. not 100% based on fact and reality. So, in light of that, do you think that your thoughts, emotions, feelings, anxieties, etc., can actually cause illness? Can any of that stuff actually make you sick? Well, do you know about how stress, trauma, and fear, etc., can affect our bodies? Did you ever Google that question? I'm going to zip through some headlines here that I found when I did just that. A quick search revealed that research shows anywhere from 40 to 90% of illness and disease is stress related. That is huge, and it should alarm you just a bit. So how exactly does it do that? Cancer doctor Lee Aaron Connealy reveals common themes seen regularly in patients before diagnosis of cancer, obviously. We will summarize some main points of this article here. Cancer diagnosis is often preceded by severe stress. Chronic stress activates the prolonged release of cortisol and adrenaline. This prolonged release causes inflammation and immune system impairment. Immune system impairment makes you more vulnerable to cancer and all diseases. And again, I'll provide the link to this article. So here's an idea. Maybe we should stop putting so much emphasis on managing chronic stress and symptoms. Managing implies that you're stuck with it. It's not going away, so you'd best focus on figuring out how to just cope. What if instead we consider the possibility that significant stress and related symptoms could be reduced and sometimes even eliminated with the right mindset and tools? It is important to point out that the word stress here is not referring to stressful events or situations, but rather the way you habitually respond to stuff you perceive as stressful, as in, that makes me so stressed out. I'm always so stressed. Oh, brain talk. We'll be talking about that soon. You can often reduce the challenging events and situations life throws at you to a point, but you'll never eliminate or control it completely. It's the nature of life. What you can control is how you respond to all of that, because it's not the events or circumstances that hurt you. It's your response to them that hurts you, and you don't have to be a victim. Did you know that happiness and joy have the opposite physical effects of cortisol and adrenaline? Because they release these chemicals, dopamine, the good kind, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. And I'll provide a link that will verify that, but you could look for yourself. There's lots. So all of those chemicals in turn just feel good and reduce inflammation. Healing spiritually, mentally, and emotionally happens more easily when you're not physically suffering. Can focusing on joy really help you heal physically? The good news is, with the right tools, practices, and mindset, you can create your own joy and happiness, which means you can create the chemicals that bring about your own healing. Does that sound familiar? The joy we feel has little to do with the circumstances of our lives and everything to do with the focus of our lives. Yes, it is a package deal. Consistent, prolonged efforts with the right brain retraining tools, such as practicing gratitude and using more Christ-like brain talk, which we'll explore in a moment, can have miraculous effects on all aspects of your life and health, because brain rewiring and the chemicals and habits it produces heal limbic system dysregulation. It heals nervous system dysregulation.